5 conspiracy theories that were actually true. Okay, get ready to have your minds blown, because today we're diving deep into the world of conspiracy theories. But not just any theories, we're talking about the ones that turned out to be true. You know those stories you hear whispered about online, the ones that seem too crazy to be real? Well, sometimes, truth really is stranger than fiction. We're uncovering the government's secrets, the cover-ups, the stuff they don't want you to know. Okay guys, let's talk about MKUltra. You know that feeling when you hear about something and it just seems too messed up to be real? That's MKUltra in a nutshell. We're talking about the CIA, right? The guys who are supposed to protect us, running a top-secret mind control program. Like what? It sounds like something out of a horror movie, but this actually happened. We're talking 1950s, 1960s. Cold War paranoia is at an all-time high, and the CIA is like, you know what we need? To control people's minds. So they start experimenting on people, often without their knowledge or consent. We're talking LSD, electroshock therapy, sensory deprivation, all kinds of messed up stuff. Imagine being one of these people. You're just living your life and then you're kidnapped, drugged, and subjected to these horrific experiments, all in the name of national security. It's terrifying. And the craziest part is that the CIA tried to destroy most of the records related to MKUltra. Why would they do that if they had nothing to hide, right? But some documents survived, and they paint a chilling picture of what went down. It's a dark chapter in American history, and it makes you wonder what other secrets are still buried out there. It makes you question everything, you know, like, what else don't we know about? It's scary stuff. Alright, hold on to your hats because this next one is seriously messed up. It's called Operation Northwoods, and it's about how the US government literally planned to fake a war with Cuba. Like, seriously? It was 1962, the Cold War was raging, and tensions with Cuba were through the roof. The US government was looking for an excuse to invade Cuba and get rid of Fidel Castro, and they were willing to go to some pretty extreme lengths to make it happen. So they came up with Operation Northwoods. This plan involved staging terrorist attacks on American soil and blaming it on Cuba. We're talking about sinking boats full of Cuban refugees, hijacking planes, even staging shootings in American cities. They were going to kill their own people just to start a war. I mean, can you imagine if that had actually happened? The chaos, the fear, the outrage? It would have been insane. Luckily, President Kennedy shut the whole thing down. He refused to go along with it. Can you imagine if he hadn't? The fact that this plan even existed is terrifying. It shows how far governments are willing to go to manipulate the public and achieve their goals. It's a chilling reminder that we can't always trust what we're told, even from our own leaders. Chapter 3 COINTELPRO, the FBI's war on its own citizens. This next one is about the FBI, the guys who are supposed to be upholding the law, right? Well, get ready to have your mind blown because we're talking about COINTELPRO, a program that was basically the FBI's secret war on its own citizens. I'm talking spying, sabotage, and straight-up character assassination. So, from the 1950s to the 70s, the FBI was freaking out about the civil rights movement, anti-war protests, and any group they considered subversive. They were like, we gotta stop these people, but let's do it in secret and be super shady about it. Enter COINTELPRO. The FBI started infiltrating these groups, planting false information, turning people against each other, and even using violence and intimidation tactics. Like, imagine being a peaceful activist, fighting for civil rights, and the FBI is secretly trying to destroy your life. It's messed up, right? They went after Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, anti-war activists, you name it. They wanted to silence dissent and maintain the status quo, even if it meant violating people's constitutional rights. And the worst part, this went on for years before anyone found out about it. Chapter 4, the Gulf of Tonkin Incident, the lie that launched a war. This one is about the Vietnam War, a war that deeply divided America and had devastating consequences. And it all started with a lie, a big fat lie called the Gulf of Tonkin Incident. Picture this, it's 1964, and the US is already involved in Vietnam but not fully committed to war. Then, suddenly, we hear about this attack on a US Navy ship in the Gulf of Tonkin supposedly by North Vietnamese forces. This incident, which turned out to be wildly exaggerated, became the justification for the US to escalate its involvement in the war. It's like the government needed an excuse, A reason to convince everyone that we needed to send more troops to Vietnam. But here's the thing, declassified documents later revealed that the attack didn't happen the way it was reported. In fact, it's highly possible that the whole thing was fabricated, or at least blown way out of proportion. The government used this incident to manipulate public opinion and drag the country into a full-blown war. The Gulf of Tonkin Incident is a prime example of how governments can use propaganda and misinformation to justify their actions, even if it means sacrificing countless lives. It's a story about deception, manipulation, and the true cost of war. Chapter 5. The Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment, a betrayal of trust. This last one is about the Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment, and it's probably the most disturbing one on this list. It's a story about racism, medical malpractice, and the government's blatant disregard for human life, particularly black lives. Imagine this. It's 1932, the Great Depression is in full swing, and a group of black men in Macon County, Alabama, are promised free health care by the US government. Sounds good, right? Except these men, most of whom were poor and illiterate, had no idea they were being enrolled in a study about syphilis. Here's the catch. The government never told them they had syphilis. They called it bad blood and withheld treatment, even when penicillin became widely available in the 1940s. They wanted to study the natural progression of the disease, even though it meant these men would suffer and die. The study went on for 40 years. Can you believe that? For 40 years these men were lied to, denied proper medical care, and left to suffer the devastating effects of syphilis. Many of them died, infected their wives, and passed the disease on to their children. The Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment is a horrific example of how racism and scientific curiosity can lead to unimaginable cruelty. It wasn't until 1972, when a whistleblower finally came forward, that the public found out about this horrific experiment. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. See you soon.